Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. We are pleased to put on a student-led program on the importance of voting to get everyone excited about voting tomorrow. We'll begin by introducing ourselves.
Good afternoon or good evening rather. My name is Kyer Fleming. I'm 17 years old. I love to play chess. I started playing back in the fourth grade. My fourth grade teacher, Mr. Carano, he had chess classes after school, so I just figured I'd join them, and he taught us the basics, and how to maneuver the pieces. And we also watched the Bobby Fischer movie a lot. I would like to go to college for computer science. My favorite color is orange, and I love to watch football.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Jagmahan. I am 17 years old. I attend Plainfield High School. In college, I would like to pursue a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science at Georgia Tech. I'm the president of the debate team, which I feel helps improve my skill in public speaking. And I am also the class president of student council for the class of 2022, which I think helps improve my class and gives me a direct link to the people who are in charge of helping our class reach our goals. I plan to become a software engineer after college.
Hi, my name is Natalie Sipake. I'm 18 years old. I'm a musician, I play the saxophone primarily, and I started off on the alto, and then I transitioned into tenor. I really enjoy being physically active, so I really like being in the gym or even outside doing outside activities. Definitely do want to go to college, so I think I want to start off at a community college for the first 2 years and then move to a university to pursue music education. And I'm also an actor, so I do musical theater specifically. So it involves you having to have the ability to dance, act, and sing.
Okay. Hello, my name is Milena. I'm 17 years old. I go to Plainfield High School. I play on the girls varsity tennis team for Plainfield. I played first doubles. My favorite colors are yellow and pink. My favorite food are burritos. And when I go to college, I want to major in business.
Hi, my name is Amanda Green. I go to Plainfield High School. I really like to model and sing. The reason I started modeling, the reason I tried to model, is because my friends were like, you should try it out. You look like you'd be good for it. So my mom went with me to New York to do some test shoot, and I liked it. So I'm not signed to an agency yet. I'm trying to do go solo to see how good it will do for me. And then after high school, I am planning on joining the Army National Guard. Uh, the reason I thought of the Army National Guard was because my mom wanted my brother to join first, and then I joined ROTC, and that was good. I loved it. I was the sergeant, master sergeant. First, I was an airman first class, then I was a technical sergeant, then I was a senior master sergeant. And during my time in the Army, they would be sending me to college to be a pediatric nurse practitioner.
So we have a student who wasn't able to join us tonight. He's practicing football, and they're still on the football field. But his name was Zion Roberts. He's 17, playing for high school student. He loves football, and his current position is a linebacker. And he wants to become an EMT and work, and be a paramedic. And he wanted to tell everyone that He loves playing defense in football. He loves specifically running the 4-4 defense, I believe. And that's one of his favorites because he feels like that defense is versatile against a few different offenses. So Zion couldn't be here tonight, but he was a part of the collaboration process. He helped us put together this presentation and practice just about every day. So if you see Zion, please give him some kudos and some love. He wasn't able to be here due to football commitments, but he was a part of this process. My name is Dr. Cox. I am the K-12 Social Studies Supervisor. I'm a former teacher. I am a proud husband and a proud father. I really love what I do, working in education and now more specifically working with teachers, but also still finding time to work with students. But I think one of the things that fills my cup up the most is being a father and watching my son grow, and watching my wife do an amazing job. I just really love being a father. One of my more extreme hobbies are photographing bears. More specifically, I've been to Alaska to photograph brown bears at eye level and camp with them as well. Most of my friends and family think I'm crazy. I just have an affinity for bears. I've been to Minnesota as well to photograph black bears. I consider myself an outdoorsman. I love to fish, camp, paddle, photograph the Milky Way, as well as, other major constellations.
I'm Dr. Pat Suplee. I'm the Director of Energizing Young Voters, and I feel absolutely privileged to be here tonight with these young people and with Dr. Cox. They're an amazing group. They have worked really hard, and they've made the dream of energizing young voters just come to life tonight. Personally, I'm a former teacher, former school administrator. I've taught nationally and internationally, and I'm currently an educational consultant internationally. I like to travel, to read, to garden, to paint. I tap dance, and I like being physically active as well.
So we have an election coming up, but there was a time when not everyone could vote. We are here going to provide an outline of who was previously disenfranchised from voting. In 1788, you had to be a white male who was 21 years or older, and you had to own property.
The country gave states the right to make decisions about who gets to vote, and that's still true today in all but a few things. The federal government stepped in to make amendments to the Constitution for people to be included in voting. As a result of the Civil War, the federal government passed constitutional amendments that provided African American men with voting rights. This was also the first time there was a definition of citizenship in America. The 13th Amendment outlawed slavery. The 14th Amendment gave black men citizenship and said if you were born in the US, you are a citizen. And the 15th Amendment gave citizens the right to vote. And I believe we're one slide before this. No, okay. In 1870, African American men are allowed to vote for the first time in this country. However, most African American men were not able to vote due to poll taxes, tacking on financial obligations to voting, literacy test, which tested language fluency, and intimidation at the voting polls. The grandfather clause also stated that if your grandfather could vote, you could vote as well.
Women begin, Women began to fight for their right to vote during the westward expansion, but women didn't gain the right to vote until 1920 when the 19th Amendment passed. Women could vote, but it was complicated. All women had the right to vote, but there were things that were done to exclude them from voting. Even though legally people had the right to vote, they weren't actually able to vote because of pushbacks. Pushback affected Blacks, Latinx, Asians, and Indigenous people.
On August 6, 1965, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law. The Voting Rights Act, though not an amendment, was a federal law that outlawed unfair voting practices nationwide. It gives the federal government the rights to look into elections where voting rights of non-white population appear to be denied, and protect the rights of all people of color, Black, Native, Asian, and more, but not yet Latinx unless they spoke and read English. The 1965 Voting Rights Act created significant change in the status of African Americans throughout the South. The Voting Rights Act prohibited the states from using literacy tests and other methods of excluding African Americans from voting. Prior to this, only an estimated 23% of voting-age Blacks were registered nationally, but by 1969, the number had jumped to 61%. In 1965, all citizens 21 years or older were able to vote as long as they spoke and read English. This still disenfranchised Latinx people.
Despite the breakthroughs of the civil rights era, century-long struggles for Latinx inclusion continued. Literacy tests prevented Latinos from voting. William Vasquez founded the Southwest Voters Registration Education Project, which was an organization that was founded to help Latinos with voter registration. William Vasquez coined the phrase, "Your vote is your voice."
On August 6, 1975, 10 years after the Voting Rights Act of 1965, following several court battles on behalf of Latino Americans, President Gerald Ford amended the act to also end discrimination against so-called language minorities, protecting the voting rights of Latinos as well as non-English speaking Asian Americans and Native Americans. He made it possible to translate registration materials into their languages and strengthen the political power of communities of color. Thanks to Latinx fighting for the right to vote, voter forms are now in many languages.
Half of the men killed in the Vietnam War were between 18 and 20 years old, but had no voting rights. There was a famous slogan created, old enough to fight, old enough to vote. The last change we made to the Constitution about suffrage happened in 1971 when the 26th Amendment to the Constitution lowered the voting age to 18. In 1971, all citizens of the United States aged 18 years or older had the right to vote.
In New Jersey, in 2020, all citizens 18 years or older that are not currently imprisoned are allowed to vote. However, there has been a new law signed on March 17, 2020, to allow formerly incarcerated returning citizens to re-register and vote, but they have to re-register. It's too late now to re-register to vote in the November 2nd election, but returning citizens should register to vote as soon as possible so they could participate in all other elections. We want to give you a little bit more information on assisting someone who plans to vote.
There are a few things that were new this year. The biggest news was that for the first time ever, New Jersey had early voting. We had 10 days in which people could go to the polls and vote in person, and that included 2 weekends, which made it easier for people who worked long hours to find a time when they could vote. It's also still possible to vote by mail, and that too helps people with tight schedules or who need to be out of town on a particular election day. But as of today, there is only 1 day left to vote, and that's tomorrow. Milena is going to give you a little bit more information about that in a few minutes. The best advice to give you is that if you have any questions tonight or tomorrow about your polling place or the election in general, go to the Union County Board of Elections website. It's very thorough. There are some wonderful videos. You can get a lot of information there. But I would like to emphasize one thing that is not normally a part of the information that you would get on the website, and that is that you are entitled to a provisional ballot. When you listened to all of the students tonight talking about how even though they had the right to vote, it was made very difficult for some people to vote. The provisional ballot is a way to resolve that. So if by any chance somebody is challenged at the polls, know that you can ask for that, a provisional ballot. You can vote on the provisional ballot and it will be counted just as your regular vote would be counted, as long as you have not already voted in another way. So pass the word about provisional ballots to those people that you know. Milena, do you want to tell them about voting in Union County today or tomorrow?
What does voting in person look like in Union County? The first step is to check in. Then step 2 is to get the ballot. Then step 3 is voters make their selections on the big screen, confirm their choices, and cast their vote.
When considering who you should vote for, think about candidates who share your similar values and priorities. For more information on candidates, you can visit vote411.org or visit your candidate's website or social medias. Vote 411 also allows you to check your voter registration status and find a voter registration checklist.
If you need to find out more information, as Nat previously stated, you can visit Vote 411, or you can visit vote.nj.gov or unioncountyvotes.com. Another wonderful resource for you guys to seek out if you are looking for assistance or any information or simply looking to get involved is the League of Women Voters. You can actually reach out to our Plainfield chapter. One of our guests tonight, Janice Fleming, she is in attendance. She's the current president of the Plainfield chapter of the League of Women Voters, which is a nonpartisan organization that encourages people to get involved in the voting process. Another thing that kudos to the students that we worked on is we basically took this student advocate toolkit that was provided to us by Dr. Suplee, and we translated it and double checked to make sure that the translations were correct to Spanish. So if you are looking to basically get this resource that we shared tonight or on the community event that we had a few weeks prior, you can email energizingyoungvoters@gmail.com and get both of these toolkits to use in your, an educational forum, a meeting, or if you want to send it out to parents or community members, we have access to this student toolkit. So you can do that as well.
We have some upcoming events that we would like to share with you.
In preparation for Black History Month, students from the Plainfield Public School District will host a book club. The goal will be to equip guests with the tools they need to celebrate African American history. The book club will meet virtually in January.
On January 26, 2022, the Plainfield Public School District will co-sponsor an event with the Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West. We will host a survivor from the Holocaust who will tell their story. And on February 18th, 2022, students from PAS, PHS, Maxon, Hubbard will be hosting an event on the struggle for Black voting rights. More information to come on that.
Somewhere inside of all of us is the power to change the world. Our interpretation of this quote is that each and every one of us, especially young people, have the ability to change the world, and that can be done through voting. So please go out and vote tomorrow if you have not already done so, and thank you for coming out tonight. We appreciate your support, and please consider coming to our future programming events.
Thank you. Could we have a virtual round of applause for the students? Dr. Suplee, thank you for being here. Thank you for climbing all of the hurdles that it took to meet and to practice. My apologies for the technical difficulties. My wireless remote just went bonkers. So my apologies to the guests. I didn't mean to take up your time and, you know, causing these snafus, but thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here. And thank you just for spending the time to, you know, look at, our students. I think my goal with this, and it's something that I want to thank my committee, is that we want to push and create student leaders. And what you've seen today with Josh, with Nat, Mr. Fleming, Milena, is you see them stepping out of their comfort zone, getting in front of the community, speaking and creating change in the community. So I'm very thankful for them. It wasn't easy, but I am appreciative, and I think that they did a great job, and I look forward to, you know, working with them in the future. So is there any, it's a lot of great comments coming through in the chat, guys. Thank you to students, Dr. Cox, Dr. Suplee. Thank you. Wonderful presentation. Excellent. Awesome job. Janice, Ms. Fleming shared her email. Looking forward to future presentations. Great job, everyone. So we do have one question from an audience, a guest member. How important is it to vote in local elections? So does anyone want to jump on and speak to that? Like, why do you guys think it's important to vote for, let's say, Board of Education members or City Council members or the mayor, right? This is an off year in the sense that we are not voting for a president this year, but local elections are equally as important. Does anyone want to tackle that question?
So I think it's very important to vote into your local ones, just because it's not what everyone sees the big picture. It is definitely still a part of the picture of changing the community and getting involved and really seeing that change you want. And it definitely can kind of feel more of a direct change rather than something everyone nationally sees. It can help the little things that you want changed.
They also,
Go ahead, sorry.
Your local elections are also very important because they usually make decisions based on your community and your surroundings that are more focused on where you live. So it's very important to vote on your local members because they'll more heavily influence the environment around you than say the president would or somebody higher up in the chain.
Yeah, so we had another question and then a comment. Also, Ms. Binger, who's on our committee. Thank you, Ms. Binger, for coming out tonight. She mentioned that we're voting for our governor tomorrow. So that's the person who runs the state. And then the question, was, does my vote have even more impact in the local election than it does in the national election? Do you guys want to tackle that one or need assistance answering it? Like, if you think about the impact, right? So if you guys vote in a local election, what impact does it outweigh the impact that you have when you vote in a national election?
I wouldn't say it outweighs the national election. I would say they're both on equal footing because they are both very important to participate in. But like I said earlier, Natalie said and I said earlier, local elections are usually more focused on the community around you and they're more localized.
Yeah, and so Josh, just to piggyback for people who are still on the call, if you think about the city council, they run the operating budget for the city, and they make decisions on that budget. And if you think about money to improve roads, money to put up infrastructures, whether we have some apartment buildings being built, we have just different things happening in the city. That stuff, those decisions are made at the city council level. Now, you talk explicitly about school systems, right? Decisions that are made for schools. That stuff comes from the Board of Education, right? So voting for Board of Education members directly affects the school system. So that's why it's severely important. Local elections are severely important because you're electing people that are going to be making decisions, one, about the city, two, the Board of Education about the schools. Dr. Suplee, could you just verbalize that? You answer that question. I saw in the chat that you answered a question. Oh, you're muted. Dr. Suplee, you're muted.
Thank you. That's my New Year's resolution for last year. Yes, 17-year-olds can register to vote. They can't vote until they're 18, and they won't show up on the voter registration polls at the state level until they're 18, but you can register. If you interact with a government agency, for example, by getting your driver's license or your permit to drive, you'll automatically be registered to vote. You actually have to opt out and say, I don't want to be registered. If you get either the driver's license or a non-driving voter ID. So yes, 17-year-olds can vote. The other question was to be more specific about provisional ballots. Provisional ballots were a way that is designed so that people who are challenged at the polls, who say go in to vote at a particular place, and the poll worker says, I'm sorry, your name is not in our ballot book. Are you voting in the right district? And if you know you're voting in the right place, and they say, well, I'm sorry, your name's not here, you can't vote. The next thing out of your mouth should be, then please give me a provisional ballot. There are provisional ballots available at every single voting polling place. So they are there. You're given the ballot. You are directed to move to a private place in the polling site. You complete the ballot, which is the exact same ballot that you would vote on if you went into the polling booth. But you vote on this and it's folded and it goes into a secure envelope, a secure bag, which is locked. And then your vote is taken to the County Board of Election along with all of the other votes from that area. All of the other votes are counted first. And once the Board of Elections is certain that you did not vote another way and you were eligible to vote, then that provisional ballot is counted. And so you have the right to vote even when someone challenges you. And, you know, being in the wrong polling place is just one thing that might come up. That's an example. But anytime you're challenged, you can ask for a provisional ballot and use that to vote. So I hope, does that answer the question that the person asked?
I think so. I actually selfishly have another question for you. If you could chat briefly, just because I think it'll help our students and for the community members who are here. We have seniors that are going off to college. So in preparation for next year, let's say, you know, one of our kids goes to school in Wisconsin and they're not going to be home for, you know, to vote. How does that process work? What would they do as like a freshman in college if they're in another state and they want to vote, participate in the election?
All right, they have a couple of decisions to make. First, they need to decide if they want to vote in New Jersey or if they want to vote in Wisconsin.
Wow.
If they decide they want to vote in Wisconsin, they need to register to vote in Wisconsin or in Tennessee or in Texas or wherever they might go. The easiest thing to do, but not the only thing to do, is to stay as a registered voter in New Jersey and ask for a vote by mail ballot and have that vote by mail ballot sent to your address at college. And if you remember the last session that we did, we looked at the voter registration forms. There is a place on there where you can put a second address where you want to have your ballot sent. So you can have it sent directly to you at your college if you want to vote in New Jersey. The other thing that you can do that sometimes is safer if you want to vote in New Jersey is to have it sent to your home address and have your parent or your family member or your household person send it to you. So there are a couple of ways, but you can choose to vote either in the state in which you're going to college or back in New Jersey. And then you just need to make sure that you're registered in the correct place.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Suplee. And then just more importantly, guys, when you do go off to college, if it is out of state, the point of that question is that you can still participate in voting. You are not excluded from that process. So we had another question, Janice. Do our high schools currently have a process in place for registering Plainfield High School students who are 17 years or older? Yes, that process happens through the guidance department. I think one thing that happened last year is we started to promote it. It wasn't something that was promoted before, but now being that, you know, we have our civics committee and we have this effort, so we basically began to promote those efforts of registering kids to vote, registering kids who are 17 years or older. But it has happened through the guidance department. It just wasn't something that was popularized in the past. But now we have our system set up, and you know we're going to promote it and get kids 17 or older registered to vote. Thank you. Janice said outstanding, and Gloria said please repeat your events. Did not catch all. So we recorded it, Gloria. I'll just chop up the part where the snafu happened with the technology. My apologies again, everyone. And then I'll get the recording out so we could take some clips. But if there are no further questions, again, I want to say thank you to the students, and thank you, Dr. Suplee, and thank you to my civics committee, not my committee, it's our committee. For working together and pushing our students in the right direction. Thank you for teachers who came out tonight, and thank you to the community members.